Bay to face the Bears. The team posting this picture from the tarmac with the caption, "We're coming for you, TNS." First, here's the latest Buccaneers injury report out this week. Will be wide receiver Chris Godwin, running back LaShawn McCoy has an ankle, wide receiver Justin Watson, the chest doubtful, running back Leonard Fournette with an ankle, and questionable wide receiver Mike Evans. He's also dealing with an ankle, as well as wide receiver Scotty Miller. He has a hip and groin injury. Let's welcome in our Stacey Dales, who's live from Soldier Field. Willie McGinnis with me on stage here. Stacey, I'll lead off with you, though. Things didn't go so well for Nick Foles last week after being named the starter. So how can the Bears offense get back on track versus the Bucs tomorrow?
Well, hey, you guys, MJ, it's a great question, and it's about building relationships on the football field. Listen, Nick Foles is going to be the guy moving forward. Matt Nagy, even right after that Colts loss, said it's going to take time to calibrate this thing. What does that mean? They're going to give Nick Foles time, but they've got to develop a relationship in game. It took 4 weeks for Nick Foles to start. Remember, Matt Nagy has never called a game ever historically for Nick Foles. And Nick Foles told us yesterday that every single day is an opportunity for growth, but the urgency is ramped up this week for Thursday Night Football and a short week against this Bucs defense. But I'll tell you what, they better come out urgently and score. In the first quarter of each of their games, a combined 16 points in those first quarters this season. If you want to establish the run, Willie, you've got to score points. You can't play from behind, and now you're going to see the third best sack monster defense in the NFL. This front seven is good. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the Bucs present, a big problem for this offense because, like you mentioned, they control the trenches. They win the individual battles. They're a top 5 team in rush yards. They're also a top 5 team in sacking the quarterback. And when you look at JPP and you look at Shaq Barrett, who led the league in sacks last year, Vita Vea, Golson, Dominican Sue, those guys can win without rushing and having to blitz many people. They can get after you with 4. Sometimes they bring 5. But their linebackers are very athletic as well with Devin White and Levante David. So they're good in space. They can track the ball. They're athletic. You can bring them on blitzes. They can play one-on-one coverage. So you're going to have to establish the trenches and win your one-on-one battles and run the football. If this game becomes a one-dimensional, Stacey, they'll be able to win those battles and be able to get after the quarterback. Nick Foles is not a mobile guy. He's not going to move the pocket much. You're not going to sprint and get him out of the pocket. So if they get in trouble and fall behind, they got to be aware because those guys can rush the passer definitely. And since we're talking about
there's no question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no question about it, Willie. You know Tom Brady pretty well, right?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, guess what? He's going to come in and face a pretty good defense, too. I mean, he's the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, an historic performance against the Chargers, 5 touchdowns at 43 years old. I thought it was interesting, Willie, what he said yesterday. Somebody once told Tom Brady, make them defend every blade of grass. And so he's going to throw it around the field, even with some of his skill position players out. But it was interesting to talk to extraordinary pass rusher Khalil Mack from the Bears yesterday. Obviously, Mack said he's one of the greats. He always puts his team in a position to win. But rush and coverage, you have to be as good as you've ever been in rush and coverage and take advantage of opportunities, which the Bears haven't done at times defensively. They missed 2 opportunities for takeaways against the Colts. So they're talking about that this week. But I mentioned those skill players, Willie. A lot of banged up players on this Bucs offense. How does Tom Brady do it? How has he done it for 2 decades playing at the same level with some guys out?
It's business as usual, and he's never had this much talent at one time in a long time, I would say. On this offense. So you got guys that are banged up, guys that are out. O.J. Howard was coming into his own. Now he's on IR. Chris Godwin is not playing in this game. Gronk, they got to figure out how to get him going. I'm sure they're going to lean on him a lot. Scotty Miller has been a guy that he had a lot of confidence. Tom has a lot of confidence in, so he's been going with him. Ronald Jones, they got to run the football with Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn. You've seen him glimpses last week. So Brady's not really worried about who's out there and how they're going to proceed. He's just going to expect guys to be prepared. He's going to expect guys to come in and fill their roles. The game plan's not going to change. I know the talent level has changed, but the game plan's not going to change. And the guys that are stepping in are just going to have to go out and play their part. But last week, like I mentioned, 5 different people had touchdowns, which means it doesn't matter your name or number on the back of that jersey. He's going to deal you the football.
I love that you both got into defense because we actually haven't gotten into this Bears defense much. And that conversation with Khalil
Right.
Mack, I mean, it's a name we haven't said quite enough this season.